Yuki Tsunoda's Formula One career is facing its biggest crisis yet, with Red Bull publicly stating that his performances are not good enough, and the team looking increasingly likely to move on from the Japanese driver ahead of the 2026 season. After 5 years in the Red Bull family without earning a promotion to the senior team, Tsunoda now finds himself at serious risk of either being demoted or losing his seat in Formula One entirely. And what happened during Friday practice at the Mexican Grand Prix has only made his situation worse. The most damaging moment came during FP1 in Mexico, when 18-year-old rookie Arvid Lindblad jumped into Max Verstappen's car and posted a lap time that was actually faster than what Tsunoda managed in FP2. Lindblad set a time of 1 minute 18.997 seconds, while Tsunoda managed 1 minute 19.090 seconds, meaning the rookie was nearly a tenth quicker than the 5-year veteran. And that's not the comparison any driver wants when their future is already under question. What makes this significant is that Lindblad was driving Verstappen's car with a minor floor update, dealing with new components while experiencing his first taste of Formula One at one of the most challenging circuits. Despite the pressure and instructions not to damage the car, Lindblad delivered a clean performance that had Red Bull's leadership singing his praises, and the contrast with how they've been discussing Tsunoda couldn't be more stark. Red Bull's driver advisor Helmut Marko was full of compliments for Lindblad after the session, saying he did a solid job and was by far the fastest rookie among the 9 young drivers who took part in FP1 across the grid. But what really caught Marko's attention wasn't just the lap time. It was Lindblad's technical feedback, which the Austrian described as very impressive and having profound influence on the team's understanding of the car. Marko noted that Lindblad stayed calm throughout the session, never got excited or flustered, and provided what he called an exact definition of what the car was doing, which is exactly the kind of mature approach that Red Bull looks for in their drivers. When journalists asked Marko what it meant that Lindblad had been quicker than Tsunoda, his response was brief but telling, simply saying that it shows Lindblad is a talented young driver. That might sound like a neutral comment on the surface, but in the context of Red Bull's ongoing driver evaluation process and the fact that they've already said Tsunoda's performances aren't good enough, it's pretty clear which direction the team is leaning when it comes to their 2026 lineup decisions. The not good enough comment from Red Bull came just days before the Mexican Grand Prix and represents one of the most direct public criticisms the team has made about Tsunoda during his 5 years with the organisation. Red Bull doesn't usually speak so bluntly about their drivers unless they've already made up their minds about what they're going to do, and the timing of that statement right before what was supposed to be the deadline for their 2026 driver decision suggests that Tsunoda's time with the team is coming to an end one way or another. Tsunoda's situation has been complicated by his own actions, particularly the controversy when he made harsh comments about teammate Liam Lawson. Tsunoda later had to apologise for what he admitted were very unnecessary comments, and that kind of public spat doesn't help when the bosses are deciding who keeps their seat. The original plan was for Red Bull to decide on the 2026 lineup after the Mexican Grand Prix. Laurent Mekies has confirmed the deadline has been pushed back slightly. However, the delay might not help Tsunoda because the direction Red Bull is heading seems clear, and 1 or 2 strong performances probably won't change minds that appear already made up. The most likely scenario for 2026 is that Isack Hadjar gets promoted to partner Max Verstappen at Red Bull Racing. Based on Lindblad's impressive showing in Mexico and the glowing reviews he received from Marko, the young British driver looks like a strong candidate for one of those Racing Bull seats. That leaves Tsunoda in a very difficult position with limited options for where he could go. The best-case scenario for Tsunoda at this point would probably be getting demoted back to Racing Bulls if Liam Lawson ends up leaving the Red Bull program entirely. But even that would represent a massive step backwards for someone who's been racing in Formula One for 5 years and has been waiting all that time for a chance to move up to the senior team. Getting demoted after half a decade of service to Red Bull would be a pretty clear signal that the team doesn't see him as part of their long-term plans. And it would raise serious questions about whether Tsunoda will ever get another opportunity to race for a top team in Formula One. The worst-case scenario is that Tsunoda gets dropped from the Red Bull program completely, which would leave him scrambling to find a seat elsewhere on the grid for 2026. The problem is that most teams have already sorted out their driver lineups for next season, and the few remaining seats that might become available probably won't be at competitive teams. After spending 5 years in the Red Bull system and building his entire Formula One career around the hope of eventually earning a promotion to the senior team, finding himself without a seat at all would be a devastating outcome. One factor that might have helped Tsunoda in previous years was Honda's involvement with Red Bull, as the Japanese manufacturer had a natural interest in supporting a Japanese driver in the program. However, Honda is ending their current partnership with Red Bull after the 2025 season, which removes one of the political reasons that might have worked in Tsunoda's favour when it came to keeping his seat. Without that Honda connection, and with Red Bull clearly prioritising their young talent like Hajar and Lindblad, there's simply less reason for the team to hold on to Tsunoda when they have other options available. What makes Lindblad's performance in Mexico particularly significant is that Helmut Marko specifically said that FP1 running in a Formula One car shows a driver's real potential better than Formula 2 results do these days. Marko pointed out that F2 has been disrupted by engine issues related to electrical problems and the new sustainable fuel. Plus, there have been multiple disqualifications caused by sensor failures that had nothing to do with driver performance. He noted that drivers like Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Oliver Bearman weren't leading the F2 championship, but still earned Formula One seats based on what they showed in FP1 sessions. And that same logic now applies to Lindblad after his impressive showing in Mexico. The Mexican Grand Prix this weekend represents one of Tsunoda's last chances to make a strong impression before Red Bull finalises their 2026 plans. But realistically, one good weekend probably won't be enough to overcome 5 years of not quite delivering the performances needed to earn a promotion. At 25 years old, Tsunoda isn't ancient by Formula One standards, but he's also not the young prospect with unlimited potential anymore. And Red Bull has always been a team that prioritises youth and future potential over loyalty and experience when it comes to their driver decisions. The brutal reality of the Red Bull driver program is that it's designed to identify and promote the best young talent as quickly as possible. And if a driver hasn't made it to the senior team after several years in the junior squad, the chances of them ever getting that promotion drop dramatically. Tsunoda has been given 5 years to prove he deserves a seat alongside Verstappen, and the fact that Red Bull is now looking at promoting drivers like Hajar, who have spent far less time in the program, suggests that the team has seen enough to make their decision about Tsunoda's future, and that decision doesn't appear to be going in his favour. As the Formula One paddock prepares for qualifying and the race in Mexico City, all eyes will be on how Tsunoda performs and whether he can do anything to change Red Bull's thinking about their 2026 lineup. But with Lindblad having just demonstrated that he can jump into a Formula One car and immediately be competitive, and with Red Bull publicly stating that Tsunoda's performances aren't good enough, it's hard to see how this story ends with Tsunoda keeping his current seat